not really moving in silence, but you kind of keep to yourself. Just keep your head down and go to work, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So just want to introduce you to some people. What were you doing before FFL, and how did you find Family First Life?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on here. It's always an honor to be on one of these calls and being able to give back to agents who are looking to, expand their business to growth independently and everything else. Wayne, before FFL, I was actually working in the sales side of sports supplement nutrition. My job role at that point in time was to basically call retail stores all across the country and push products into the doors. And then alongside with the consumer base on a personal level, when I did a lot of local bodybuilding events in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So I toured up a lot up there. So being on the road for me was not a sweet feeling. I was used to, hitting the ground running and doing what I could. The downside of being in that side of the industry, as much as it fun it was for me at that point in time, it didn't pay anything. It literally, I think my biggest year was like 45,000 bucks in one year, and I did everything I could to make sure that the company I worked with was growing in revenue every single month. Giving out samples, meeting people, constantly being on social media 24/7, promoting not only the product but also yourself with it, because that always boosts up the exposure on the algorithms on social media. So how I actually got introduced to Family First is very ironic. Luke Bohach, his wife Deborah was actually our sponsored athlete in
Mm,
worked for, and I had met him backstage at some of the local events in Baltimore and Washington and Richmond, Virginia areas. And we would always chat. We would always like bump into each other and just talk about, fitness. He had a pretty big passion because his wife, is a professional athlete. My girlfriend Shauna at that time was also competing professionally, so they actually knew each other as well. But I didn't date her at that time, so there was a different story. But Luke, essentially, what had happened was in 2017, he started dripping on me with text messages about FFL, and I had no idea what he was even talking about. Just one day, randomly, he sent me a screenshot of a leaderboard within Northwest, and I looked at, I was like, "What is this?" He goes, "Well, that's just something that some of our agents make on a weekly basis." I was like, 10 grand a week? What's the catch? What pyramid scheme are you trying to get me to be a part of over here, right? And he goes, "Well, there is no catch. Let's meet up one day for dinner and I'll tell you all about it." And we ended up meeting. And Wayne, you know as well as I do, at that point in time, the lead system is nowhere superior where it is now. So there was like only one the old CRM system from what I remember, and there was mortgage, mail drops. And he showed me what the leads look like, and he says, all I do is I call these people, I set up a time to go see them, and I help them out with their coverage request. I was like, I can do that. He goes, yeah, it's really simple. It's no complication to it. I was like, what do I have to do? He goes, go study for your license. I'll send you a free voucher and you can begin your process. So I got so pumped up about the opportunity. At that point in time, I worked my old job from home. I was literally doing in-home stuff, being on the computer on the phone all day long. I literally stopped doing what I was doing. I was still getting paid, but I was studying during that time for my state license exam. And I finished the course within about a week. Went out, took the exam, I failed it. All right. 3 days later, went out again, failed it again. Went out again. About another week later, failed it for a third time. And in Virginia, if you fail it 3 times in a row, you have to wait for 30 days before you can retake your exam. So I was like, all right, well, I have an extra 30 days to study. So I went out the fourth time and then I finally passed it. So the point of it is a lot of people will give up early on, being, not motivated to do it after failing over and over and over. I kept seeing the opportunity and I was like, I really need to be a part of this because I see that this can change my life if I, take a chance. So I got my license, Wayne, I think right after Christmas in 2017. By January 1st of 2018, I was licensed, appointed. I had my E&O. I was ready to go. And at that time, he had actually given me about 120, 130 aged mortgage protection leads, anywhere from 6 months up to 3 years. And he said, here you go. Happy selling. I was like, what do I do? He goes, just call them and book appointments. I called a few, and I didn't have much luck. I booked appointments. I ran them, couldn't help them. And for 6 weeks straight, I didn't sell a single policy.
Oh,
So I was struggling early on, but here's the thing, like I kept pushing forward. I was like, this is going to work. And right around that time, Wayne, my vehicle got repossessed. I come home one night, Sean and I, we went to dinner. I come home, I'm like, where's my car? I knew it was repossessed. She didn't know. I didn't have the heart to tell her. I couldn't afford the payments on it anymore. And she said, don't worry, we'll figure it out. Well, a week or so later, the Dallas National Conference was coming up in 2018. And Luke had called me. He goes, hey, you need to go to this conference. Like, you can afford not to go. You can't afford not to go. You're going to miss up the opportunity to get better and learn more about the business. I was like, dude, I got like $400, $500 on my name, and that's supposed to last you for 2 more weeks. Like, I can't afford to go. He goes, why don't you sell a policy on Shauna and use the money to go? And she's like, okay, I could use life insurance. So I wrote her in America. 2 days later, I got paid. It was like $800 and some change. When I got my first payout from America, Wayne, is the moment I saw, I was like, whoa, this stuff is real. It's not a scam. I'm ready to go to work. And I booked my flight. I booked my flight to Dallas, and I went down there, and still not having enough money on my name. I went out, and Luke was saying, hey, there's going to be a new agent there with you. You're going to be able to share his room for the 2 days that you're there. Don't worry. Just book the flight and get a rental. I was like, cool, done. So I'm landing, Wayne. This is how crazy this story is. I landed in Atlanta waiting for my layover to Dallas. And I get a call from him. He says, hey, that guy that you're supposed to share the room with, he's not showing up last minute. You got to find a room. I was like, great, thanks. I have no money. I have a little bit of money left on my name, and that was it. So I'm pacing. For those who've been in Atlanta, Atlanta's like the largest airport in the entire world. They literally have shuttles for a purpose, so you can go from one terminal to the other. I was so anxious. I never had anxiety until that day. I was sweating. I literally paced from one end to the terminal to the other for 45 minutes. I got on the phone with my lady. I was like, look, I can't do this. I'm not doing this. I'm literally going to rent a car, and I'm going to drive back 8 hours to Richmond, Virginia right now. I'm not going to Dallas. I'm not doing it. She goes, you're out of your mind. Calm down. I've been to many of these sales conferences. They're life-changing. Just go. You're halfway there. So I went, found a little crappy hotel room for $60 a night. Had like 1-star review. The scariest thing, you can stay over in Fort Worth, to the point where I didn't leave my luggage in the hotel room. I didn't trust it. I took it put it in my car every morning as I left to the conference center. And when I went there, Wayne, I was the first one there. I was not told what time to be there. I just said, hey, just show up. So I was there like 6:30 in the morning. Nobody was there. I'm like, where's everybody at? I was that eager to go and just plug right in and start working on this. And then people were showing up, people were dialing. I met, Sean Mike briefly, Brian Mendenhall. I think I ran into Mark Mead before. I ran into a few people that are still around to this day. And I was just watching. And I remember when I watched Brian Mendenhall, he was coaching people to dial. Dude, he was like a drill sergeant. Like, no, you got to stay on him. You got to stay on him. Brian's high energy like that. But I went there, Wayne, and I was there for 2 days, and it changed my whole perspective. I started sitting off all the way in the back because I just wasn't comfortable where I was at. As the day went on, I kept inching closer and closer to the stage because I wanted to be that much more involved in what I was gaining from it. And what really set me off, and I saw how everybody was doing this, was the award ceremony. Seeing people getting bonus checks, Hall of Fame jackets, top producer. I'm like, man, these guys are no different than I am. Like, why am I holding myself back? Like, they can do this, I can do it as well. So came back home, Wayne. 2 weeks later, I quit my job. Mind you, I made about 2,800 a month at my old job. I went and worked those old leads for my first week. I door knocked, I called, I door knocked more than I should have called. And I still ended up depositing 3,500 in my very first week that I never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
For the first year in 2018, I was literally hobbying this business left and right that I was making more money than I could before my old job. And to me, it was more than enough to like enjoy myself, pay the bills and everything else. Just by playing around with it, I still ended up actually paying 189 grand in 10 months. And I was on a part-time basis. I qualified for my first America bonus within 2.5 months, used a lot of the money, went on like three different vacations that year to really live it up because I never had the opportunity to do that with anything else I was doing. And we moved from a couple different places. So life changed because of FFL very fast. And I'll never forget that moment when he introduced me to the opportunity to say, hey, you can do this. And having a support system from all over FFL, from different leaders and mentors all around, and encouraging you that you can always go higher, taking advantage of it, it's just been life changing.
Yeah.
That's how my start came about, Wayne, with FFL.
Yeah, Luke's solid. The more I get to know Luke, the more I like and respect what he's done. He's just one of those guys that you kind of want to have in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
So a quick question, and I had a very similar situation with my car getting repoed a couple months after I started. So I know what that's like, except for take your girlfriend out, insert my mom who was watching my car get loaded. So very similar situation.
Wow.
But it just goes to show it's not kind of where you start. It's how you react to those situations that you find yourself in, and where you want to go from there.
Yeah.
But you said Luke, you talked backstage, and then he just dripped on you via text message. How long did it take you to sit down with Luke from the time that he mentioned it to the time that you said, okay, let's sit down and talk about this?
It was somewhere in the time frame 6 to 7 weeks before we actually had the opportunity to sit down and really dig in depth about it. He kept talking to me about it. One thing I did notice about him was, I'm like, what does this guy do for a living? I always questioned what he did for a living. I just never really asked him. And because all I would see is, I'm like, his wife is always competing. They're on getaway trips, doing this, doing that, and he's paying all the bills. I'm like, what does he do? Like, and I always wondered, like, what's feeding his pockets, and how is he making everything happen so fast with what he's doing with his lifestyle? And I
Yeah.
never questioned until he just one day just started sending me text messages. It was one time it was a picture of him in a conference room at a meeting. Then it was at him like, what is he getting at here? And it never clicked to me. And it was like, oh, okay.
Why
But
6 weeks? Why 6 weeks? And what was it that finally said, okay, enough's enough?
honestly, Wayne, it was fear. I was so brainwashed to this paycheck system that we used to in the corporate world, that if you leave it, you're going to lose that guaranteed pay to pay your bills. The sad reality is, I was getting paid, but it didn't even let me keep my car because of it. And
Yeah.
I just knew that. And here's the thing too: when I got licensed as well, I didn't pull the trigger. I sat on it.
Yeah.
Stations with them, and he goes, why are you waiting? You have a license, you got carriers under your belt, just go to work. I'm like, I know, I'm just scared to leave this. I'm scared to leave this job because it's paying me this guaranteed money, because I never really worked 100% commission based job. So for me, it was
Mm-hmm.
brand new territory. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, I don't know, I just had doubts. And the moment that I wrote that first policy and got paid out, I was like, all right, well, I'm a believer now.
Yeah.
No about, just keep moving forward.
It's funny how that works. Like, you were nervous about leaving the paycheck, and most of us came from W-2 positions, and very few, if any, I haven't come across a top producer yet that has a degree in insurance. So none of us really planned to be here. None of us came here like, okay, and just walked into 30 grand a month. We all kind of took our lumps so to speak, and as a result, use that to eliminate those obstacles for the people that come behind us, which is why, like you alluded to what the system looked like before versus what it looked like now, it's almost cheating with what they walk into today.
You ain't
Um, but he dripped on you for 6 weeks. You made a decision, and then you didn't make a sale for how many weeks did you say?
roughly about 6 weeks. I was trying to do it part-time on certain evenings,
Okay.
run appointments and weekends. For me, it was still, being fearful and not, being consistent on trying to get a hold of people and booking appointments. But the ones I booked a few times, my very first one, I shot myself in the foot because I didn't call him from the table. I tried to make it work. I sat there for like an hour building rapport, came out to fill the application. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to do this right now. And I froze. I was like, I don't know what to do. Um, and then my second one, I actually started filling out apps, but then kept getting declined because of certain medications. And I'm like, man, I'm like losing here left and right, but I didn't
Also
quit.
because you weren't calling from the house.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't calling. But I started learning my lesson, and he would get at me, goes, why didn't you call? He goes, you remember what I told you. If you don't get ink at the table, you call me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started calling and we started closing. And I was like, it's funny how that works, because my very first appointment, Wayne, that was actually real, it was a 3-year-old mortgage protection lead that I door knocked. I left them a yellow sticky note. And the wife calls me back. She goes, what's this all about? I was like, hey, you had filled this out. Has anybody helped you? They're like, no. Okay, I'll be in your area Tuesday. What time works for you? Well, we're here all day. You can come on by. We're just doing some stuff around the house. So I went out there, and the first thing I did, I filled out the inventory sheet, Wayne, and then I called Luke. And I was like, Luke, I have this gentleman. He's 68, 9 years of age, in really good health, but we need to find a solution. So I put my phone on speaker and I laid it on the table, and I let them talk. And
Yeah.
we found out that not only did he not have any insurance, he had a $335,000 variable annuity he was losing money on. And then Luke was like, we're going to be back in the area next week. What time would work best so I can come out with Dean and we can help you out? So we went
Yeah.
back the following week. We ended up writing a $335,000 annuity. And then we ended up writing a $4,000 annual premium America HMS 100 at that time.
Yeah. Talk about some ROI.
Right. So he gave me a lead that he bought a while back that he never processed. I went out and door knocked it. And I think once I was all finally set and done, I ended up making like $9,000 because we split the annuity. He let me keep the life business. So it's like right around close to $9,000 off my very first real in-home sale. And then I was like, man, I'm going to door knock every lead I can get my hands on. So I started doing that way. 2018, 2019, I door knocked like crazy. My second big landing off of a door knock was even better. Another lead that he's given me, I went and called the guy multiple times. I door knocked, left a delivery notice, never heard back. A few weeks later, I happened to be in that same area. And I was like, let me see if he's home now. He wasn't home. So I was getting ready to leave a second door knock slip. But I left the first one inside of the mailbox. And when I opened up the mailbox to leave my second door knock slip, this guy left a note on my first door knock slip. He said, please hold until end of June. I was like, I gotcha. I know when you're coming back, because he was out of town. So I finally called him back in June. He finally answered. And it was this really super nice old guy, 72 years of age. He's from Switzerland. And this guy came prepared. He goes, I can't meet you at my house, but I'll be more than happy to meet you at McDonald's down the road. I was like, I'll meet you wherever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
So we go down there, and the guy literally brings a book on IULs. He was like, I want this IUL. $60,000 check to write you if you can find me this product. I was like, you're in the right hands. So once again, I bring Luke back into the business because I knew nothing about advanced market sales.
Yeah.
Found out he gave us we signed up for a $60,000 IUL and a $756,000 annuity that he had. And once it was all said and done, Wayne, it was like almost 20 grand in commissions.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Knock.
it kind of speaks to a number of things that FFL hangs their hat on. Like you're big, huge on activity, huge on you're a lead junkie. This I know from knowing you, and you're big on resolving those leads, regardless of exactly. And you're big on resolving those leads, which is kind of an anomaly to be a lead junkie and be focused on resolving all the leads. It's crazy, but it's no. I guess it makes sense why you're able to do what you do. And I watched your run toward Hall of Fame last year when you had that gap, and then how quickly you closed the gap. And it's because of your work ethic, which is kind of ingrained in you. And it also speaks to kind of the support at FFL, the fact that Luke kind of essentially handed you $20,000 on a platter, and then the training that FFL provides, and putting you in a position and giving you the confidence to do those things. And as you start building, which is a perfect segue because Luke gave you those leads that he hadn't processed that were years old that you then processed and obviously found some gold in. Is that a practice that you use now for agents as they come in, leads that you didn't get to resolve?
100%. Yeah. So everything that I've learned over the last couple of years, as far as guiding and training from him and other leaders, I apply those same principles, because
Yeah.
if you give back, you're always going to get back more, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've even went into the CRM. I've bought agents leads, just to get them started and roll. I mean, I have one agent. I've bought them 400 3-month-old internet leads, and they ended up writing like 15 grand on them. I ended up paying like $400, whatever it was, and they ended up making 15.
Yeah.
Um, with the override structure, this is the power of override. I mean, you make it all back within a couple of those sales, depending on your structure. So knowing that, if you invest in somebody who that's going to be a great asset, not only to themselves, but also your overall agency growth, why not invest in them? And that's what Luke did. He invested in me, and trusted me well enough to go out and change my life around. But at the same time, we built the business partnership together,
Yeah.
because using his guidance, leveraging what FFL had at that time, like nothing, like now it's completely like way advanced. But at that time, like for a lot of people who are new, like we didn't have the resources we have now. We didn't even have Zooms at that point in time. We didn't do none of this stuff. It
Yeah.
was, you go to, like, you have a small little meeting. I remember we had the Monday morning wake up call with Paul McLean. It was a phone call that you had to dial into and listen to and take notes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has changed since that transition phase, and the training got better and better and better because of it. But then you start using social media platforms and putting yourself out there. Like I always like to go on, do little Facebook lives here and there, like sharing my experience in the field that day. Because if you portray yourself like, man, I'm just like this, high producer, whatever, but I never share my side of the story, like, why being so secretive? Because you never know how many people can take a few nugget points away from that. So for me, it was always like, if I have a crappy day in the field, which a lot of us do, to this day I still do, why not share that? What did I go through in that struggling point in time that you may relate to, that may help you get better? And that's what Luke did
Mm-hmm.
too. He told me all the ups and downs of the business and invested in me that way. And now we have a partnership where we're all growing together, as a huge unified team, and building something special, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. So when did you start hiring?
I started hiring. So I was very selfish. Obviously, 2018, I hobbied the business. 2019, I started sharing the business side on More Market. I saw what it did for me in 2018. I was like, you know what, 2019, I'm going to be all in, and I'm going to run a lot more business. So I started running more full time. I started being a lot more consistent with my schedule. And what I did, Wayne, was every time I would get a deposit, like Americo screenshots or Mutual, whatever, I would put them on social media. One of the things about me is I'm not afraid to let people know how real this is. We can talk about it all day, but people want to see that it's real. So I would put these little, pictures together and say, this can be you. Like, what are you doing for your life right now that sucks so bad that you need to change? Well, this can change your life. But then I started boasting about what it did for me. I use me as an example because people watch me for so many years. I've created this big social media following. I can't even add more friends on Facebook, how big it is right now because it's all maxed out. But over the fitness years, I kept doing all these crazy things. I was always transparent, Wayne. I had an open mind. I said things how they what I thought, because that's how I was. Now I can't do that as much, which is okay. But people developed a following. But now when I say, okay, well, my car was repoed. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. But then I started posting what it did for me. Like people that follow me closely for the last couple of years through FFL, I was very big on sharing the cars I bought, right? Because I'm a huge car guy. I love cars. I always will, and that's never going to change. I'm like, yeah, I bought this car. 3 months later, I bought this car. 5 months later, like I went through a crap ton of cars, man. It's one of those things where money, it doesn't buy happiness, it just buys you opportunities. And to me, when people started, like, all right, like I've been watching you long enough. What are you doing? How can I be a part of that? And 2019, we started building Wayne. And my goal was to hit VP, and we did it in November of 2019, which was really cool. First time that we did it. And then, of course, integrity came in the picture, right? So when integrity came in the picture, they raised the bar like no one's business.
Yeah.
When I came on board, when it was all about Hall of Fame, dude, Hall of Fame is like on the back burner now. No, like it's cool if you get it, but honestly, when I got my jacket, this convention here, I wasn't as excited as I thought I was gonna be because I'm like, great, I got a jacket. Like I'm like, but now it's like, yeah, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. That's the new challenge. Like, how fast can we get to 1 million?
Yeah.
Man, integrity really kind of like it's exciting. I'm like, man, thanks for crapping on my parade a little bit in a good way, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to see how much it's evolved and how much we're raising the bar for people that anybody can build right away now. You don't have to.
Especially when you employ what you talked about before. Basically, for lack of a better way to put it, recycling leads. I mean, a lot of agents are like, I don't want these old leads. But if you don't have money, then you don't really have a whole lot of choice. And if you're paying attention in these old leads, I mean, $20,000 on an old lead, like I'll go through a stack if I know that somewhere in that stack there's going to be something or a group of situations like that over the next week or so I can deposit $10,000, $15,000 with ease. So what'd your agency do last month?
So we fell a bit short, but we did 493 in April because it was a 5-week month.
Okay.
Within April, we did 366, but last month, 4 weeks, we did 420, almost 425.
So you're pushing EVP.
We went up as far as the 4-week mark.
Yeah.
60 agents, issue pay business.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping by the end of this month, we should be 500,000, if not as dead close to as possible, which we're increasing volume. But the biggest challenge that we're having is I can't teach an agent to duplicate what I can do. It's very hard to duplicate what I do. It's very hard what you do, like to duplicate what you do. Not everybody has that momentum. So we're working with people and adjusting their schedule and training them every week constantly to help them understand what they need to fix in order to get better. Well, we fix it by two ways: buy more leads, book more appointments. That's it. There's no other solution out there. When people want something else as an answer, but there really isn't. It's literally buy more leads, work more.
Yeah. You learn pretty early on in life, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never get perfect, but the more you practice, the more money you make, and the more obstacles you can alleviate along the way on the phone and in the house. So you're pushing 500 grand, $1 million is the bar. What are you doing to hire, to get people plugged in? How are you getting people going? Because obviously there's a system there. That you're following to get people from I don't have a license or I have a license but I work somewhere else, to get them acclimated and plugged in. So kind of walk us through your system from soup to nuts, so to speak.
Absolutely. So the number one thing I did, Wayne, and you guys are going to hear this over and over, staff. Um, I didn't have staff for 2.5 years, and I went and sat down with Sean Mike, and and Sean was like, this was back in November last year. Sean was like, "What'd you guys do this month?" I was like 336. He goes, "What'd you guys do the year before, same month?" I was like, "I don't know, like 200." He goes, "You guys didn't grow." I was like, "Thanks." It was kind of like a kick in the gut, but it was a good kick in the gut. It was like a reality check for me.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, integrity had raised the bar. And he goes, "Do you have staff?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Get staff." And then Nick Ayala told me the same thing, get staff. I was like, okay. So shortly after we left the meeting, I hired my first staff. And that first staff responsibility was to start interviewing people and start working on some of the back end stuff to get organized.
Mhm.
So what we came up with, Wayne, was we needed a system that people can follow. So we had to create a website. We needed a system where it looks more professional. So I had to get a domain name with domain emails. So I can't advertise under Gmail. It kind of looks cheesy and unprofessional. You need something that looks more appealing, right? And then we started dipping into ZipRecruiter hiring ads, and we did Craigslist ads and everything else. So now we got 2 staff. We're hiring every week, interviewing. I think last week we interviewed a little over 60 people, probably put about 20 something in class, which is good. So we're doing all the things that everybody else is doing, except right now, budget wise, it's not allowing me to do more until we grow a little bit more. But once it does, then we can dip in, a lot more money into it. Because I know the more you put into, higher volume you're going to get. Essentially, we're going to have to hire a third and fourth staff in order to do so.
Yeah.
But we're doing everything else, and I'm doing everything what everybody else has been preaching to me. Like, I went to all these different, board members and above, and I asked them, I was like, what can I do to make this business go outside of the funding? What do I need to do? He goes, well, you need to guide people. You need to build leaders within your group. So one, get staff. Second, start building leaders. Who out in your group can you run with?
Yeah.
And I have a select few that we're working with now, which has been great. Obviously, we're looking to develop more. But once we started doing all those little things, Wayne, those little adjustments,
Mhm.
things changed. We quickly went from 300 to almost 500,000 now in 3 to 5 months,
Yeah.
because we started plugging people in the right way. We have a simple and welcome email with 6 day steps. You do all of these things on day 1, everything on day 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Before, Wayne, it was a lot of my fault. I held people back that got their license. I'm like, no, you need all these 5 cures to run business. Until I went to a conference and I heard one guy write 33,000 with prosperity. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, you guys are getting prosperity, you're writing business. You don't see me.
It comes in 2 days.
And it's crazy. So
Yeah.
it made me realize that I'm learning. I'm learning a lot about myself throughout this building journey. I can run business all day. Like, give me leads, turn the light switch on. I'll produce at a high volume all day, every day. I don't care. But it's teaching
Yeah.
me these things along the way, to be a better person and overall learn more about myself, develop my leadership skills, but at the same time also communicate with people, understand their needs, because this
Yeah.
is bigger than you. No matter what you do, it's always going to be bigger than you. And that's what made me realize. It humbled me in so many different ways, that I see a clearer picture of what we need to gravitate towards to.
Yeah. I
And
think that's one thing that people don't necessarily bargain for or understand when they come to FFL is that yes, we want to change your financial picture, but we honestly want you to become a better person overall and develop you personally as a human being, because it's only when you do that 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 you can understand, like what you said, that it's bigger than you and it'll always be bigger than you, which is why the system is a system. Like, you plugging into the system in the beginning is the same thing that you did to figure out how to get from where you are to a million, is to plug back into the system. It's like, hey guys, okay, I got this part of the system. Like, what do I do on this side? How do I get to board member where you are, so that we can start having this integrity conversation together, instead of just knowing that you guys are somewhere in a silo talking about integrity? Like, I want in. How do I do it?
exactly.
Um, That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, and for me, the number one source to go to was Sean Mike. I called Sean. I was like, "Hey, Sean, I'd love to meet with you. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
drive over to Boca. Let's me go, talk to."
And his phone number's on the website.
Right. And he goes, "Yeah, let's do it." So I went there, and I'm like, man, it was a rough meeting. Like, I had to swallow a lot of tough pills but in a sense, I was never offended. I never took it personal. I was like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. And both
Yeah.
him and Nick said, stop doing this, start doing that. And I guarantee you, you're going to see change. So now when I see Sean and Nick, it's a different conversation now. It's a lot
Absolutely.
respectful level on a growing side in the business because they see what you're doing that I've implemented. And not many people are that receptive to constructive criticism right away. Like if I
Yeah.
told somebody to do that, they may not like it and they may not do anything with it. But for me, I realized, Wayne, dude, tell me everything I'm doing wrong. I don't care. Like, tell me how badly I suck so I can fix it because I want this
Yeah.
to work. And if you're receptive to being criticized positively, then be receptive. Don't take it personal. This is nothing personal. Nobody said anything about your mom. Nobody said anything about you being bad. Like you're making poor business decisions, and it's okay to have that recognized by somebody else. And the moment I did that, Wayne, is the moment I was able to understand that this is a lot bigger than I am, and I had to treat it as such. And all I had to do is follow the ones that are doing it ahead of me, and then I've been doing it for a lot longer and a lot faster. And if that makes sense.
100%. 100%. All right, Dean, I'm gonna open it up to some questions here. Let some other people get at you, and kind of be selfish and pull some things that they wanted to hear from you. Um, so if you guys have any questions for Dean, just unmute yourself, and fire away. Nobody has any questions.
Gentlemen, I have a question. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Eric, what's going on?
What's happening, guys? The two staff you have. Do you separate responsibilities regarding like administrative and recruiting, or do they just kind of pick up whatever slack is needed?
Good question. One is my administrative staff. She handles all the back end stuff. She's an IT nerd. She knows everything about the system and computers. So she handles all the website development, the plugging the people into it. And she follows up with everybody that's sitting in the Excel solutions study program and says, hey, where are you at? How can we help you? What do you need? And then she also manages a lot of the contracting things, like puts people into the contracting through our HCMS system now. My other person is a recruiter. Her responsibility is just to call and recruit, hire as many people as we can to put them through the system. One thing I had to learn about this business, Eric, was after talking to a lot of people was out of every 100 people that you hire, you're only going to have about 1, maybe 2% stick around. It's a numbers game, just like it's a numbers game when we call our leads to set up our appointments. Like I said, this is bigger than you, and we cannot take it personal. We can't hire everybody. We can't help everybody. And that's okay. As long as you understand and you're receptive to understanding that 1 to 2% out of 100 people are going to work out. And out of that 1%, that's roughly 10 people. You may have 1, maybe 2 that are going to be top high-end producers that are going to do 40, 50,000 and above every month. Everybody else, they're going to hobby it. They're going to be part-timers. And that's probably more than enough for them to make a living. And if you look at, let's say, for example, Grady Polson's structure, right? Grady Polson is about 67, almost 70% of his agency volume are people that are running a part-time issue paid schedule. Everybody else above are high-end producers, but he has, I don't know, close to 1,000 agents. So do numbers on the math conversion, what it takes to get there to have a $3 million agency.
Right.
I think if you set proper expectations to your staff, let them know this is a numbers game. We need to hire as many people as possible. That's all it takes. And then eventually dipping more into it.
The recruiter you hired, did you find that individual within the recruiting industry, or was it somebody that came in and said, well, I can go on Indeed and I can recruit agents? And then the follow-up to that is, if it is if it was or is someone within the recruiting industry, how do you compensate that individual? Is this individual based on full-time, part-time, per hire? How do you do that? Because I know Indeed, there's the daily charge, the monthly charge. So then I'd go in, then I'd ask, do you budget on a P&L type of thing of how much do you allow this recruiter to spend on recruiting?
Excellent question. So luckily for me, my admin, she actually was an FFL agent before. She had to step away from the field in 2019. She did 274,000 issue paid, and she had to step away because single mom, 2 kids. And then when the pandemic hit, she had to work, remotely from her house. So she works for a company remotely, that does all the IT stuff. So now she does everything else on the side on a free schedule and part-time basis to help with the admin stuff. And then my hiring person, I actually had one cold market hire that I hired. That ended up not working out. We gave her like a 90-day trial period to see what she can do. We had to let her go. So one of my agents in our downline, she actually can't run business because she's going through a bunch of like custody stuff. But she's also wants to build and hire. So I was like, hey, if I pay you to recruit people, we're still building your team, we're still doing everything else. Could you do it? She goes, absolutely. So now she's doing all the interviewing instead of running while she has her agency building. So now she's getting paid directly from myself, but she's also getting override from the agents that she's brought on board. And now she gets the opportunity to build along the way. And she's also dipping into her own advertising and everything else. So as far as payout, what I did with the first person that was cold market, I started them off at $16 an hour. And if we get to a certain volume, you get
Estoy de acuerdo. Obvio, no podrían salir en una película porno, pero
and then I told, if we get to a certain number, you get 17, 18 and above, and then to see how it goes. Unfortunately, she didn't last that long to see the progress of it, but anybody else I bring on, I'm gonna follow the same exact pay structure, because I need you to prove your worth, that you're willing to work for this raise if you help us grow to a certain point. And also I told, like, this is one thing that I took from Alondra and Josh. Every staff that they bring on, they make them get licensed. Because for me, I started looking at it this way. If you get them licensed, you can help them build an additional leg. The business can fund for itself, but also it teaches them what insurance is all about, because it puts them in a point and saying, okay, this is real. This is what we have to do. These are the rules and regulations. If anybody comes up with questions when they're interviewing somebody, you know the answer. You don't have to come back and ask me and send a bunch of emails. It only made sense to me to do it that way. So both of my staff now obviously have their license, and whoever I bring on, they're gonna have to get licensed per my request, because I want you to understand what insurance is all about. So I think for that, it will work a lot better, and you'll really see who's serious about taking this to the next level. And I give them an incentive. I'm like, hey, you got 90 days to get your license. So you'll work, you'll get paid, but you got 90 days to get your license.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I like the idea, because a lot of people I've spoken to about recruiting, it's like, you got to know about the industry. It's hard to recruit for insurance if people ask you questions and you can't answer.
Exactly. Yep. So that's what I also do with incentives for new hires. I tell everybody, look, if you can complete your online course and get your license within 14 days or less, I'm gonna start you at discount. If you go a week over, you're gonna go 5 points below. If you go beyond that, you're starting flat out at 100. I start everybody off at least at 100.
Right.
But if you complete your licensing 7 days or less, we'll get you a 110. And if you prove yourself within the first 30 days, I'll bump you up another 5 points, because I want to see people who are serious, who are ready to move. Because there's a lot of people that procrastinate. And when you're interviewing people, you got to challenge them. Like, is there any reason you can't set aside $500 to $1,000 to invest in yourself? Not to buy leads, but to invest in yourself. Oh, I can do that. Is there any reason you can't complete this course within 14 days or less? Anything longer than that, you're going to procrastinate. And honestly, you're never going to move forward to it. So I'd rather you tell me now and not, waste my time trying to, hey, where you at? Where you at? Where you at?
Well, also that recruit costs money. That person that's sitting in front of you costs you money to get them in. So it's not,
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Everything costs money. So
Right.
you have to use it wisely, and you have to
Right.
you have to be able to understand this is your business. You're in charge of how you want this to grow, and you're in charge who you want to work with. So you have to treat it as such and being very
Right.
intentional about it. Otherwise, people are going to run over you, and then you're not going anywhere. You're just being held back from where you want to grow.
I appreciate the insight. I always find when I look to recruit, it seems like I would rather pay somebody to do it. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
And also the cost associated with it, I don't want to overspend and not be able to focus on it, as well as dealing with current clients and running new business. So
Well, here's the thing now, like Wayne posts, it takes one policy to start your team, right? So one policy a week for all of your monthly stuff for your business side of things. But what I did prior to doing everything else I'm doing now is I would use my windshield time to talk to people. I was always on the phone, on the go, talking to people, answering agent calls, recruiting, and I made it work. But now as you get bigger, it gets a lot tougher and harder. You know, fortunately, the way our business is growing, I'm not running in the field as much like I used to. So I'm using all the revenue from the business override and putting it back into the business to help.
right.
And then whatever I run now it's pretty much a part-time basis, I pay my bills with and some. So because of the opportunity, what we have here, we're able to do that as individuals. You know,
It's almost like a lot of the guys that I see, the agency guys that have grown the agency, they just plow forward, and then at some point it begins a life of its own, and then there's more time to oversee. Because my major concern with the recruiting is if I'm doing Indeed and I'm putting all these resources out there, I have nobody accountable for report. Like if I don't have someone responsible for the recruiting, at the end of the week, if I go, well, how many people are we going to see on Monday at Duffy's? And they go, oh, I haven't heard from anybody. Well, I'm paying for Indeed. I'm paying you. There's that follow up and that oversight is something that scares me.
right. Well, here's the best advice I can give you regarding that. Start dripping on your warm market. Go onto your social media. Don't be afraid to post your deposit. If you have nice deposits, look, $1,000 is $1,000. It's more than what most people make in a week. If they see that you can do that within one appointment in 35, 45 minutes, post it.
Right.
I did that a lot. If I showed you my entire hierarchy structure, 90% of my downline are a warm market, because I was that intentional about sharing the opportunity. And then my ladies shared the opportunity, and then their people shared the opportunity. Teaching people to drip in their warm market give you better business overall.
I see.
You can go through a lot of cold market recruiting. Reality is you're not going to get many go-getters out of that. You're going to get a few, but it takes a lot of them to find them. That's why 100 hired cold market, you're going to get 1% maybe sticking around. And maybe out of that 10 people, you're going to get one or two that are actually high-end producers. But how many hundreds do you have to go through to find that one individual? But if you find somebody in a warm market and they really want it and they trust you because they see you, they trust you, they're going to work with you a lot closer. So now you have a relationship already built prior to anything else.
Right. And it didn't cost you anything.
Exactly. It's free.
Maybe a beer.
I mean, even beyond that, Eric, don't overthink this thing. Like Dean he's high.
That's my main duty in life, is to overthink everything.
I know. And that's why he's high activity. So the money makes a lot of things palatable. It makes a lot of things disappear. And if we're talking about an admin and Indeed, it's 2 extra policies a month.
I mean, you're right.
One of them pays for Indeed, one of them pays for their own salary, and then it frees up all this time for you to run more appointments. Now that 2 appointments that you were looking for, or 2 policies you were looking for, turns to 5 extra policies. Now you have this extra cash flow. So it takes care of itself.
And the bottom line is make more money, and then it doesn't necessarily matter too much. I mean, it's there, but I get you. I appreciate it.
We're going to help you manage it all anyway. I mean, our staff is going to help your staff get acclimated. We're going to help you manage it. So whenever you're ready to go, we'll jog with you. We'll walk with you. We'll walk ahead of you. We'll jog with you. And then when you're ready to sprint, we'll definitely sprint with you. So
cool.
Dean, I know you're busy.
I
Um,
have a quick question for Dean.
get back to your day here. Kevin, do you have a question?
Yeah, real quick. I know
Last
he
question.
he mentioned something that you're into bodybuilding. That I'm into it too. I was just gonna ask you, how do you manage bodybuilding and FFL, because I know they're both they take a lot of time.
Wait, before you answer, Dean, Kevin, he starts with getting up before you do. But go ahead. Dean.
So I'll give you my honest opinion, man. Like, I used to be in the gym 7 days a week. I'm probably in the gym 3, maybe 4 days a week now. I'm not too concerned about that anymore, like I used to. It consumed my life at one point, but I'll tell you what, man, it doesn't pay your bills. I'll go where pays my bills, and I still have fun with it. I work out when I can. I enjoy it, but it's more so for my sanity than anything else. Sure, you can go out and be big, buff, and bench press 400 pounds, but dude, I'll tell you, I'm 35, almost 36 now. It catches up with you. It hurts. That weight hurts after doing it for such a long time. And my advice to you is, look, do it for your own sanity. Don't do it for anything else. Stay active. But a lot of these people that you see that are doing it, they're working out, like Dave Witcher is crazy. I can't lift weights at 4:30 a.m. I don't know how he does it, but some of these guys, they get up at 4:30, they're in the gym by 5, they get it done, and they're done with their day. And now they have all the production time to fund and build their business because of it. It's all about scheduling, Kevin. If you get your schedule aligned and make it a priority, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or whatever, evening, it doesn't matter. A lot of gyms are also open 24 hours. Make it a priority within your schedule, but look at your schedule and lay it out. So, and that's my last piece of advice I can give everybody is, no matter what things you have in life, whether it's personal or business, put them on a schedule, because you want to see where things are so that you can align them. The moment you fix that, things are going to start changing for you. You're going to see the consistency every day. And before you know it, in a short period of time, it becomes a habit. So